Hi, I'm David. Thank you for spending the night with us. Tonight we go back more than 800 years, high into the Alps, to a mountain monastery in the deep middle of winter. Everything you will hear is drawn from real history, and the sources are listed below. There are no ads waiting to wake you, and nothing sudden ever happens here. So settle in, get warm, and let the past keep you company. Good night. Welcome, traveler. You can close your eyes now. There is nothing here you need to see with your eyes open, and nothing here that needs anything from you at all. Tonight the only work being done is the work of resting, and you are already doing it perfectly. Tonight we are going back 800 years and more, high into the Alps, to a monastery at the head of a snowbound valley, on a night in deep January when the wind owns the peaks and every warm thing in the mountains has drawn indoors, behind thick walls, close to some small kept flame. Nothing bad happens on this mountain tonight. Nothing surprising happens either. The high passes are closed until spring. The hay is in the barns, the cheese is in the cellar, the books are safe in their chests, and the snow is doing what snow does best, which is to lie down over everything and ask the whole world to lower its voice. Tonight is one quiet night among thousands of quiet nights that history never bothered to write down. That is why we are going. The chronicles kept the emperors and the councils and the quarrels. They let the snowy Tuesdays fall through, and the snowy Tuesdays were most of what a life was. You are expected tonight. The house you are walking toward is expecting you without knowing that you exist. It is a house of monks who live by a rule written 600 years before tonight. And one line of that rule says that every guest who arrives is to be received like the most honored person in the world, not questioned, received. Because of that one line, a bed is kept ready in every house of this order for a stranger who has not arrived yet. Tonight, the stranger is you. And on the way to sleep, you will find out where one of your everyday words was born. A small word you will say again tomorrow. I will not tell you which one yet. It is waiting for you in the bell. If you drift off before we reach it, that is not an interruption. That is the story working. So, let us climb the last mile while there is light to climb it by. You come up the mule track beside a frozen stream, and the valley narrows as you climb until the mountains stand close at either shoulder, patient as grandparents. The snow on the track is packed and dry, and it creaks under your boots with the small, clean sound of a cold that has settled in to stay. Your breath goes ahead of you in slow clouds. The pines on the slopes carry their loads of snow with the ease of long practice, letting little glittering curtains sift down through the green whenever the wind moves. The sun left the valley floor an hour ago. Down here the light is already the deep blue of winter dusk, but high above you the snow fields are still lit, a slow rose gold burning along the ridge lines, the day withdrawing upward the way water drains, the peaks always the last to let it go. In the mountains, evening is not a moment, it is a procession. The track is marked with tall wooden poles, planted every few paces, standing up out of the drifts. Someone climbs this path every autumn and sets them, so that when the snow erases the way, strangers can still find it. Nobody who planted those poles knows your name. They were planted for you anyway. And then, before you see the abbey, you hear it. A bell. One bell, somewhere ahead, ringing slow and even, and the sound comes down over the snow with all its edges softened, rolling from slope to slope. It is the bell that calls the day's work home, bringing the brothers in from the byre and the woodshed. But a bell does not ask who is listening. To the farms far down the valley, it says the hour. To the herdsman, it says supper. To you, climbing the last stretch in the blue dusk, with snow beginning to find your shoulders, it says only this: the house is awake, and it is warm, and you are nearly there. You round the last shoulder of rock, and there it is, a cluster of steep dark roofs around a square stone tower, set on a shelf of level ground, where the valley ends and the mountains close hands. Wood smoke stands up from two of the roofs, thin and silver. The buildings are shuttered dark against the cold, all but one low window beside the gate, where a small gold light is burning. That light is lit every evening at dusk, whether anyone is on the road or not. Most winter nights, no one is. Tonight someone is. The gate is oak, studded with iron, twice your height, built into a wall of mortared stone, and set into the great gate is a small door, just big enough for one person. You knock, and the knock sounds enormous in all that snow silence, and you wait, suddenly shy, the way every traveler is shy at a strange door at dusk. Then, from within, unhurried footsteps. A small shutter slides open in the small door, and a face appears in the gap. An old face, deeply folded, with white eyebrows carrying a little snow of their own, and the eyes in it are already pleased with you. And the old man says 2 words in Latin, the same 2 words he has said at this gate for 30 years. Deo gratias, thanks be to God. A strange thing to say when somebody bangs on your door on a winter night, until you understand how this house is built. The rule these men live by is precise about the gate. It is to be kept by a wise old brother who knows how to take a message and give an answer, and who greets a knock as if it were good news. Because in this house, a knock at the gate is not an interruption of the day's work. It is the day's work. Thanks be to God. Someone has come. The bolt slides. The small door swings. You duck through the thickness of the wall, a full stride of solid stone, and you find yourself in a snowy courtyard with a lantern burning under the eaves, and the porter closes the door behind you, and the mountain's voice drops away to a murmur, like a great conversation heard through a wall. The porter looks at your snowy shoulders and your tired boots and asks you nothing at all. He rings a small handbell once and pats your arm with a mittened hand, as if you were a horse who had done well. In a few moments, another monk comes across the yard with the deliberate walk of a man saving a candle, and this is the guest master, the brother whose whole office is travelers. He takes your bundle before you can argue. In a warm room off the gate, he pours warm water over your hands, a courtesy offered to every guest from the road, even in winter, when the road is mostly ice and hope. Your cloak goes on a peg near the fire. Your boots are set where the heat can reason with them. No coin is asked, none will be. Travelers leave what they can in the alms box by the gate, and many leave nothing, and the porter blesses them all identically. The mountain does not haggle. The guest house stands just inside the gate, apart from where the brothers live, and it keeps its own kitchen and its own fire, and that arrangement is not an accident. It is written down. Travelers arrive at strange hours, the rule says, so the guests are to have their own hearth, so that a latecomer can be fed at any hour without a single sleeping brother being disturbed. This house was planned, stone by stone, around the fact of you, centuries before you were born. Hospitality here is not a mood, it is architecture. The kitchen is small and low, and its fire is the first fire you have seen since morning, and you sit on the settle beside it, while the guest master ladles soup from a black iron pot that has been keeping company with the coal since midday. There is a cat asleep on the wood basket, striped and entirely certain of her arrangements, and she opens one eye to establish that you are not a mouse and closes it. The soup comes to you in a wooden bowl, steaming. Barley and beans, cabbage and leeks, softened all afternoon into one warm agreement, with dried herbs from the infirmary garden rubbed in at the end. With it comes bread, a dark, dense loaf of rye and wheat baked this afternoon, cut thick, still warm at the heart, and a piece of cheese the color of old ivory, and this cheese deserves a moment. In summer, when the snow lets go of the high meadows, the young brothers and the hired herdsmen drive the abbey's cows up above the trees and live there in stone huts and make cheese, wheel after wheel, all summer long. In autumn the wheels ride down on mules and sleep all winter in the abbey cellar, growing harder and deeper and sweeter in the dark. So what you are tasting is last July. High sun, meadow flowers, cold streams, all of it folded away against exactly this kind of night. In the mountains, summer is never gone in January. It is stored. There is a little wine, too, from the abbey's own vines 2 days down the valley, watered well in the sensible way, and it warms you from the middle out. The guest master sits with you while you eat. He is allowed to. The rule itself allows a fast to be broken for a guest's sake, because in this house, a guest eating alone is considered a small failure of the whole enterprise. He talks quietly and lets you talk, and the news is traded, which passes are closed, which is all of them. How deep the snow lies at the village below, waist deep and settling. Whether this winter is a hard one, and it is not, he says. It is a usual one, which up here is a blessing. The abbey holds farms and rents down that valley too, for this house is a landlord as well as a refuge, and the two have learned to live together, mostly kindly, for a long time. And he tells you the shape of the night ahead. Soon the bell will ring for Compline, the last office of the day, and you may stand in the church and hear it if you wish, with no more asked of you than is asked of the pillars. After Compline, the whole house enters the great silence, which lasts until morning, and if you wake in the deep night and hear a bell, small and far away, turn over and sleep again. That bell is not for you. But first, while a little daylight is left in the sky, he shows you the thing this house does that will outlive it. He leads you through a passage into the cloister, and the cloister stops you where you stand. A square covered walk, arch after arch, framing a small garden buried in snow, blue in the last light, absolutely still, with the dark bulk of the church rising over one side, and one small lamp burning far down where the walk turns. It is the quietest architecture you have ever stood inside, and it teaches you its pace within 3 steps. Along one walk, arranged to catch the best of the day's light, stands a row of slanted wooden desks. This is the Scriptorium, the writing place, and it is the reason houses like this one will still be spoken of in your century. There is one rule here, older than any abbot's memory, and it is this: no flame ever comes near the books. Not a candle, not a lamp, not once, not in the coldest week of winter. Parchment catches like autumn leaves, and a library can be lost in the time it takes to tell about it. So the writing day is exactly as long as the daylight, no longer, and in January that is short, and every scribe in this house knows the dusk, the way sailors know the tide, by feel, down the back of the neck. The desks are empty now, all but one. At the desk nearest the window, a monk sits with his back very straight, finishing the last line of the day, while the page goes slowly gray under his hand. The quill is cut from the wing feather of a goose. The ink is oak gall and iron, black as this night now, and destined to soften to a warm brown over the centuries, like everything else that lasts. The page is parchment, sheepskin scraped and stretched and smoothed with pumice to a surface finer than any paper you have ever touched, and a great book takes the skins of a whole flock, which is why nothing is written here idly. The lines were ruled this morning, faint and true, and the letters hang from them as evenly as washing on a line, each one built from 2 or 3 small strokes, each stroke pulled slow. He is copying a book of remedies, herbs, and their uses, from a volume that came over the pass on a mule 2 summers ago, lent by another house in exchange for a psalter, because this is how books travel in this world, one mule at a time, one hand at a time. When this copy is finished, a year of his life will be inside it, and it will go down the valley to a new shelf, and the borrowed book will go home over the mountains, and both houses will be richer, and no one will have paid anyone anything. The light fails. You can feel it failing. The window going from pewter to slate. The monk pulls his last stroke, lifts the quill at the exact moment the letter ends, and sits back half an inch. He reads the line once, breathing on his fingers. Then he wipes the quill clean, stops the inkhorn, and leaves the page lying open on the desk to dry overnight, with tomorrow's first task waiting beside it, a small pot of red ink for the great capital letters, because red is the color this world gives to beginnings. Here's a thing the guest master tells you on the way out, in a voice gone low with affection. The scribes, being human, sometimes leave little notes of their own in the margins, where the text is not looking. "My hand is cold," one wrote. "The ink is thin," wrote another. "This parchment is hairy." And one brother, at the end of a very long book, wrote, "Let me now be given a drink, for I have earned it." The text marches down the middle of the page, and out in the margins the people wave to you across the centuries. Some of the pages written in rooms like this one are lying in your century right now, in quiet libraries, perfectly calm, having simply declined, night after night, to be lost. Tonight one of them is drying in the dark, 20 steps from where you will sleep. The monk rises, stretches his back, the way all scribes in all centuries stretch, and seeing you, gives you a nod, warm and complete, a whole welcome with no words in it. The silence is near, and around here even the goodbyes keep to the daylight. The guest master walks you once around the cloister before the bell, because a house shows itself best at the pace of an evening stroll, and this house was built to be understood from this square path. The church takes the whole north side, tall and dark, its stone shoulder keeping the worst of the wind off the garden. On the east side is the chapter house, where the brothers sit each morning on stone benches to hear a portion of their rule read aloud and to settle the small business of the day, whose turn to bake, whose to mend. Above it runs the dormitory, one long room under the roof where every brother sleeps, and from its end a stair descends directly into the church, the night stairs, worn hollow in the middle of each tread, so that in the middle of the night 40 men can walk down more than half asleep and climb back without ever quite waking. On the south side, catching whatever sun the winter spares, is the refectory, where the brothers eat in silence, while one voice reads aloud to them, because in this house even dinner has a story. And on the west side, the cellars. The whole of it, church, chapter, bed, table, book, is arranged around this one square of buried garden the way a family arranges itself around a hearth. A monastery is a house folded around a piece of quiet. The brother side of the house keeps almost no fires. The dormitory is unheated, woolen sheepskins doing the work of wood. The church is as cold as the stone it is made of. In the whole great house, there are 4 fires: the kitchen, the infirmary, where the old and the sick are excused from heroics, the guest house, where your soup was, and one room off the cloister called the calefactory, the warming room, the single hearth the healthy brothers share. On black winter mornings, they will come there by turns to unstiffen their fingers before the writing hour, and the ink itself is carried to that fire when it freezes. Warmth in this house is not an atmosphere, it is an appointment. And yet, walking it, the arrangement does not feel harsh, it feels chosen. The guest master opens the cellar door and lifts his lamp for a moment. Wheels of summer cheese, ranked in the dark like patient moons, strings of dried pears, crocks of honey from the abbey's own hives, whose bees are asleep now in their straw skeps under a snowy eve, their summer's wax standing up in the church tonight, waiting its turn to be flame. Across the yard a byre breathes, cows lying warm, flank against warm flank in the dark, and in the corner on double hay stands the old mule who carried the book of remedies over the pass, retired now, having done more for civilization than most emperors. Then the bell begins above you, close now, huge and gentle, and the guest master tips his head toward the church, and you go in to hear the day completed. The church is dark and cold and vast, the way only a dark, cold building can be vast, its pillars going up out of the lamplight, like the trunks of a stone forest. One small flame burns far off at the east end, hanging in the blackness like a moored star. You stand at the back, close to the wall, and no one minds you, and nothing is asked of you. Whatever you believe and whatever you carry, the back of this church has room for it. Travelers have stood on this worn flagstone with every kind of heart. The brothers file in from the cloister, 2 by 2, hoods up against the cold, and take their places in the dark. One voice alone opens the office, asking, in Latin older than the walls, for a quiet night and a perfect end. That is the whole of the asking, and then they sing. The office is short, and they sing it almost entirely from memory, because they have sung these same words at the same hour every night of their lives, and the brothers before them, back and back. It is plainchant, a single line of melody with no harmony beneath it, rising and settling, like slow breathing. You do not need the words, and nobody offers to explain them. Sung into the dark, in an old language, the last office of the day does the same thing to every creature in earshot, which is to slow the heart. The office is called Compline, from a Latin word that means completed, and that is the whole idea. The day is complete. Nothing can be added to it now, and nothing needs to be. Whatever the day was, it is finished being, and finished is its own kind of perfect. The singing settles for the last time and stops. And in the stillness after it, the great silence begins. It begins the way dusk begins, without an edge. The brothers rise and file up the night stairs to their long, cold room, and not one word is spoken. And from this breath until after sunrise, no word will be spoken in this house, not behind any door. The silence is not sternness. You can feel that at once, standing inside it. It is the silence of a household lowering its voice because the child has finally fallen asleep, except that here, the child is the whole world. And up in the tower, The bell rings the day closed. Listen to it, because I promised you a word, and here it is. The Latin these monks speak has a homely word for bell, clocca. It came over the sea long ago with wandering Irish monks, a plain word for the plain bronze thing that orders their days, and it has rung across this valley for as long as the tower has stood. There are no clocks in this world, none anywhere. The machine will not be invented for another century and a half, and when at last it is, it will be built for houses exactly like this one, a patient arrangement of weights and wheels with one job, to know the hour in the dark and wake the brother whose duty it is to ring. A machine, in other words, for serving the bell. And so it took the bell's own name, clocca, and the name wore down through the centuries like a stair tread and arrived in your mouth as clock. Every clock in your world is named after the bell in a tower like this one. When you say the hour aloud, 6 o'clock, you are saying 6 of the bell, and down under the floor of those words, there is snow and a dark valley and bronze swinging gently above a sleeping house. You do not have to remember any of this, but some night in your own century, saying the hour out loud, you may hear the smallest echo riding inside the word, the way a bell rides down a valley long after the ringing stops. The guest master is waiting for you at the church door with a candle. He leads you across the corner of the courtyard, through the falling snow, to the guest house, and up a short stone stair to a small door, and inside is your room, and it is small, and it is right. Whitewashed stone, a ceiling you can touch, walls a full arm's length thick, and set in them one small window, closed with a wooden shutter, no glass, because glass is for churches. The wind leans on that shutter all night, the way a big dog leans on a door it has never once managed to open. Steady, hopeful, harmless. The bed is narrow and low, a wooden frame laced with rope, a mattress of clean straw that sighs when you sit on it, linen worn soft, and wool, plenty of wool, blankets woven from the abbey's own mountain sheep, dense as turf, and over the foot of the bed a sheepskin with the fleece still deep. Down between the sheets, wrapped in a cloth, there's a stone, taken from beside the guest kitchen fire an hour ago, and it has been holding its warmth for you the way the poles held the path, without knowing your name. On the little table beside the bed, the guest master sets down the candle, and this candle is the last quiet gift of the house. It is beeswax, from the abbey's own hives, the same wax that stands on the altar, which is this house's way of paying a guest a compliment without saying a word. Most of the world burns tallow, which smokes and swims. Beeswax burns clean and slow, with a warm and steady gold, and as it burns it gives back, very faintly, the smell of honey, the last of the bees' summer leaving at the pace of one small flame. In the still air of the cell, the flame stands almost perfectly upright, a painted flame, and by its light the whole small room looks carved out of amber. A jug of water, a wooden cup, a peg for your cloak, nothing else, and nothing missing. The guest master looks once around the room, confirming for the 10,000th time that a room is right. Then he puts his palms together and lays his cheek against the back of one hand, the old sign for sleep, hand speaking because mouths are done for the day, and the door draws shut behind him, and his footsteps go softly down the stair, and that is the last human sound of the night. The candle is yours now, to keep burning or to pinch out as you please. A guest's candle is the guest's own business. You undress in the amber light. The stone floor is honestly cold for exactly 3 steps. which is the correct price, and then you are in, under the linen and the wool and the fleece, and your feet find the warm stone, and your whole body files its report. The day is over. The walls are thick. The soup was good. We are staying. Listen now. The house has gone into its silence around you, and inside that silence, small sounds are still allowed, and every one of them is a good sound. The wind draws over the roofs in long, slow strokes, and the shutter takes its leaning and holds, a creak so small and regular it might be the room breathing. When the wind rests between strokes, you can hear the snow itself arriving, a hiss finer than breath, thousands of the smallest possible landings every second on the slates and the sills. It is the sound of the mountain being tucked in, and under everything, if you listen all the way down, the stream you walked beside is still running somewhere beneath its lid of ice, a note more remembered than heard. Across the yard the byre is breathing, slow and grassy and warm. The cat has the kitchen, and over in the long dormitory, 40 men are asleep in wool, under one roof, and not one of them is speaking, and their silence has a warmth to it that carries across the courtyard like the smell of wood smoke. That is what the great silence is, in the end, a thing the whole house makes together, every night, the way other households make bread. Then, in the passage below, a light passes, soft steps, and a seam of gold traveling along the bottom of your door, and gone. That is the circuiter, the brother whose duty tonight is the rounds. One small horn lantern, all the halls of the house, every lamp confirmed out, every fire banked under its ash, the gate bar in its brackets, the silence kept. Every night, one brother walks so that the rest may sleep. You have met this man before, if you have traveled with us before. 1,000 years before tonight, he walked a rainy street in Rome with a lantern swaying on a pole. 200 years after tonight, he will walk a frozen English lane with a staff and a dog. Tonight he is a monk, with cold ankles and a small light, moving through a stone house in the Alps, finding everything exactly as it should be. Watchmen change. The watch never does. And in the deepest part of the night, hours from now, the bell will ring once, up in the cold tower, small and far, and the brothers will rise without a word and go down the hollowed stairs half asleep into the dark church and sing, and then climb back up and sleep again. It is the gentlest custom of the house, and it is the house's whole idea laid bare. No hour of the night goes unattended here. Someone is always awake in this valley, on purpose, keeping the night the way a shepherd keeps a hillside. The farms far below hear that small bell in their sleep and settle deeper for it, and so may you. If it reaches you tonight, let it say what it has always said. All is well. Someone is watching. Go back down. There is nothing in this night that needs you. The gate is barred. The fires are banked. The page is drying in the dark, with its margins full of cold hands and thin ink. The cheese is ripening. The honey is keeping, and the poles stand along the path under the falling snow, ready for the next stranger. Every task this day contained is either done or has agreed to wait for morning, and morning is a long, long way from here. Tomorrow, in this house, the bell will ring before dawn, and the day will assemble itself in the dark, patiently. The kitchen fire will be woken from under its ash. Bread will be set to rise. The porter will sweep the night snow from the gate with a broom of birch twigs and look down the white track for whoever might be next. And the scribe will come to his desk in the first gray light, warm his fingers at the warming room fire, Take up the small pot of red and give tomorrow its capital letter. But that is tomorrow, and tomorrow is not your concern, and it is not here yet, and it keeps. History will tell you about this century's crusades and cathedrals, its quarrels of kings and popes, and history is not wrong, but history was written by the daylight. It kept the coronations and the disputations, and it lost almost all the nights, and there were so many more nights than coronations, night after night after night like this one, a candle in a stone cell, snow filling a high valley, 40 sleepers keeping one silence, a bell waiting in a cold tower for its hour, a page drying in the dark, a cloister away, part way through its slow walk to your century. Nobody recorded any of it because everyone was asleep, resting for tomorrow, exactly as people have always done, and exactly as you are doing now, 800 years downstream, in your own bed. This is the oldest thing you will ever do. Older than the rule, older than the bell, older than the mountains' names, lying down warm while the cold keeps its distance, letting one small flame stand in for the sun until the sun comes back, trusting the night to pass on its own, because it always has, every single time, no exceptions, not once in the whole long memory of the world. Your breathing has gone slow and deep. The straw has taken your shape and holds it. Your feet are warm at the stone, and the wool is heavy in the good way, the way that means the day is over and gravity is on your side. If your candle is still burning, you can let it burn. It knows its work. It will stand its small watch and put itself to bed in its own time. And if you have pinched it out, the dark that is left is not an empty dark. It is a dark with a bell in it, and a watchman, and 40 sleeping keepers of one silence, and beneath your window, the whole mountain, holding its breath until spring, with a valley full of sleepers folded in its lap. The snow goes on falling without needing you. The tower holds tomorrow's hours, the way the cellar holds the summer, patiently, in the dark, till wanted. The abbey sleeps around you, all of it now, porter and scribe and abbot, cat and mule and bees, one warm creature in the fold of the mountain, breathing slowly under the snow. Let the last of the day go now. It was a good day. It got you here. The candle will keep till morning. The morning will keep till you wake. Sleep now, traveler. Good night. History will keep till morning.